We have Siddharth Dikshit, who's the founder and managing director of an air environment company, joining us. He's a young entrepreneur. And then we have Barun Agarwal also joining us on a similar issue of can better air lead to a better GDP. Welcome, Mr. Dikshit. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Anurag. Thank you for having me.
Good. Mr. Dikshit, you started this company a couple of years back, and you started this company around the time when the focus on better air quality in public spaces, in homes, became bigger. Tell us, how did you start this company, and tell us about your technological collaboration with, from Europe, and what are you doing to make the air better?
So, Anurag, we basically stumbled upon the idea or started evaluating the idea in 2013-14. It was still slightly early days in terms of the sort of awareness, or say the buzzword around air pollution. People were, we were getting a sense that air pollution is an issue, especially in the urban areas. And that's when our sort of R&D process the idea started in. We kicked off, with our own thought process, developed in a small sort of R&D group in the EU. And at that point, our focus was largely looking at the urban air quality as a problem, which is a function of both indoors as well as, semi-outdoor, outdoor ambient spaces. And one of the things that we realized initially in terms of our analysis and the sort of the realization we had once we looked at the entire marketplace or the problem itself was that apart from just indoor air quality, a significant amount of impact of what's really brewing in is really what's impacting people is semi-outdoor, outdoor ambient air. What I mean by that is, the air quality that a common man would, encounter when he's, say, on a railway, he's waiting for a train on the railway platform, the metro platform, around the bus shelter. We started developing a technology that would not just have an impact just on, indoor air spaces in an enclosed environment per se, but also would start, treating and giving cleaner air in terms of semi-outdoor and outdoor ambient air installations like the ones.
Thank you. Just from, I'm reading your interview 3 months back in the issue of Business World, and you said over 4.2 million people across the world die annually, and 92% do not breathe good quality air. These are very
That's
worrying.
true, and I mean, there is enough data that is validated there. 9 out of 10 people in urban areas in the world do not have access to clean air. If you look at the number of deaths, and now we are calculating that with, unfortunately, the spread of COVID, but 4.2 million people in a year are now being affected and die as a result of bad air quality issues, whether it's to do with lung problems, heart problems, etc. Now, if you look at that number from how it has an impact on, say, productivity, how it has an impact on just availability of hands that contribute to the economy, to the GDP, etc., the impact is huge. In fact, there have been numerous studies that have been conducted over the past 2 months in the likes of China, the EU areas which have been affected with COVID, France, Italy, Spain. Howard has come out with a similar study which has, and it's showing a direct correlation with the impact of COVID being higher in areas where there is higher pollution. And the basic sort of science behind that is the fact that viruses and bacteria use particulate matter and dust particles as a transporting agent. So the areas that have been highly affected, actually, if you do a correlation, which has been done by these numerous universities and institutes, have actually a higher concentration of air pollution in those areas.
Thank you. You said your technology is unique, and among the few technologies of the kind it is. Tell us why your technology is differentiated. The many
So Anurag, what we really use is an advanced ionic science principle, whereas we have the ability per se to be able to install our machines in a semi-outdoor and outdoor ambient air environment. So effectively, what we're focusing there on is treatment of polluted air on large volumes in a single site. If you compare that to when we have our indoor air purifiers, whether it's the room purifiers or into the ducts, etc., they work on a principle where they use a base and they keep filtering the base down. But it's focused on the fact that that it's not a single air treatment site. So what the technology effectively is doing is we're taking over a large air volume and in and around the machine, creating a clean air bubble. So we do this without the use of any filters. So effectively what the machine is doing is we're making the air around our machine the filter itself. So this is then done at much higher speeds of bombardment. And apart from, particulate matter and, capturing, bacteria, we also have the ability now to treat gases, nitrogen oxide and sulfur oxide. And, these gases, the consciousness in the developed world is even higher because they lead to lung, liver damage and cause cancer.
And you said that your technology does not use any filters or chemicals.
Precisely.
Not generally any secondary pollutant emissions. And you also said that the running costs are low. Explain to us how have you been able to achieve that?
So like I said, we do not use any filters. Effectively, like I said, because of advanced ionic mechanisms, we are able to capture and then eliminate, pollutants at a much higher bombardment speed. But we're doing this without filters. So effectively, what it's doing is our efficiency remains constant throughout the running of the machine. Whereas when it comes down to filters, etc., over a period of time, their efficiency keeps going down. And anywhere between 3 to 6 months, that actually they should be replaced, which is not the case in our scenario because there are not any filters being used. Also, we come in with our own sort of power packs, etc., into the machine, so as such energy consumption is minimal. To give you an idea, our sort of largest standard system, which is about 12,000 cubic meters of air volume per treatment an hour, which we've now deployed in infrastructure points like the Paris Metro, the French Railway station. We've done it in parking garages. We've deployed it in school playgrounds, etc. That roughly works on about 300 watts of energy. So that's 1/3 a unit of electricity.
Thank you. Siddharth, when you talk to large, let's say, institution owners, it's for public places. It's for, let's say, a large educational institution like IIT or an MDI or any large educational institution, an Amity University, whatever it is. Now, what is the kind of costs that are needed to kind of install it? Give a sense of the cost needed to install it. Because one of the biggest impediments is that if the costs are prohibitive, I know there's no cost of living and having a healthy body and a healthy mind. And, as this life is about, pran is air. So air is air is life.
Precisely.
There's no cost to that, but when you're doing such installations, what are the kind of mindsets have you encountered? Where you met success and where you haven't met success.
So I think Anurag, what we also kind of come down to is, that India is a more sort of, when you speak specifically to an Indian environment, and we see a big difference when we do sell, say, to the European market or the North American market versus the Indian market. In India, we are more sort of, conscious of keeping the capex low, and we say opex mein that's the sort of mentality. In the more developed nations, they're more conscious of keeping the opex down, having the right sort of technology parameter, and actually having the right technology for what their need is. So from that perspective, they are more savvy to make a higher capex but reduce obviously their opex. But from an Indian scenario as well, we've only been in commercial operations for a year, and so far, I mean, there's obviously sometimes a perceptual issue that but outdoor mein aap kaise treat kar loge hawa ko, wo to ho nahi sakta hai because of existing technology bases existing, and obviously this entire wave of ionic science that we work on it's only been commercialized about 2 to 3 years back. But when we start looking at a larger volume airspace, so we're looking at a school playground, or we're looking at through their treated fresh air units, these are again larger volumes of air. So in those cases, the lower sort of cheaper air purifiers in any case largely don't work, and they also need to be modularized. So in terms of our real sort of value proposition really kicks in when you start looking at air volumes of about 4,500, 5,000 cubic meters of air an hour and above. And at that pricing, it kind of sinks in with say if they're evaluating a cost per cubic meter, or they're evaluating it with say in a lot of institutions that have a sort of a an offset or a legacy from the real estate sector, they look at cost per square foot. So that's really the range and above where we start, really getting efficient.
Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you. So while you cater to large spaces, large numbers of people, what are its implications for homes? Is there a smaller device that you have with we all use air filters, air purifiers.
Precisely.
More consumer products, but you are more industrial and institutional, right?
Infrastructure space. We've actually, Anurag, done in some residential homes as well. We've done in some sort of larger residences, farms, etc. But the premise then has to work in is that we go in through a centralized air network. So we will connect our systems then from a treated fresh air system or an air handling unit, and from there again look at the sort of centralized air and create a centralized treatment solution mechanism from there. Precisely from a perspective of looking at just really small devices that you would put into your rooms per se. I think that we're still about 12 to 18 months away from actually introducing that product and really shrinking down our technology to come down to that size. Our focus still remains larger air volume spaces or larger air treatment handling capacity. So we when we do residences, we would plug it in through the centralized network. So I think 12 to 18 months is what we're looking at launching. Maybe a sort of a much smaller room or a smaller passage area sort of a product.
Like we go to air conditioners are a way of life in any institution. Companies, real estate owners, we all invest in air conditioning. When will we get to a mindset where we'll say air purification is as important as air conditioning, or it's as important as the clean water that you drink, whether through an RO or whatever process you have of clean water? When do you think we'll get to that kind of consciousness?
So in fairness, Anurag, the better developers, I'd say the more better quality or the higher ended developers already have in that consciousness. Whether you're looking at the likes of say your Godrej's, your DLFs, or actually to be honest, any most developers who you would classify as the tier 1 or tier 2 in the real estate sector now having a consciousness towards. Obviously, the better developers or the bigger developers are more adaptive to better technology. They're adaptive to higher capex and integrating it from there. But if you look at the sort of demand, when you look at people, whether it's multinationals, whether it's larger Indian corporates, whether it's in a residential sector, your professionals or your high net worth individuals, clean air is actually now something that apart from being conscious of, they are demanding that. So I mean, there have been projects that are launched now where the air quality index and the clean air mechanism is actually one of the big salient features of selling it, to the end consumer, whether it's a commercial tenant, whether it's a retail organization, whether it's a residential client.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. I could ask you some more questions, but I'll let you go by asking my last two questions. If we talk to you pre-COVID, and now we're talking to you post-COVID, has there been a change of mindset in people's perception and need for, let's say, an air purifying solution? Have people become more conscious about immunity, about health, and has it actually made a difference on the ground?
Oh, totally, Anurag. I mean, I think there is obviously a slight bit of confusion as to the impact of viruses in terms of technologies being able to treat that. But from a perspective of demand or a want or a desire to consume solutions that are going to improve immunity and lead to better sort of living and working conditions, yes, absolutely. In terms of sort of the technologies out there, to be honest, people are still grappling in with the impact of COVID. You would largely still use a base of viruses as a family, but there are solutions now that are coming in terms of integrating integrating other solutions into the offering to create a sort of a more vibrant impact with regards to COVID. In fact, we've been now since January, and we've been working on viruses prior to that as well. But since January, we've kind of increased our focus to kind of enhance the technology to now move towards treating apart from the virus family in general, having an impact even on COVID. So in terms of demand, in terms of a need to consume, a desire to consume, and the ability to spend to consume these products, yes, that's prevalent, and technologies are coming out which are offering a COVID solution in addition to the sort of general or the more holistic clean air solution as well.
Thank you, Siddharth. I think we call our healthcare providers first responders. We call our caregivers first responders. I think it's time to call people who want to make air, water, trees, plants, our environment better. Because, at the end of the day, nothing has matter. Everything else is necessary. Our body is the most important, so to say, tool we have to live our life fully. I think the consciousness towards air, as we talk about yoga, and in some days having the yoga day, I think quality of air is the most important issue. We've seen that respiratory diseases have gone up, lung issues have gone up, and in times of COVID, immunity,
heart issues, diabetes,
totally. So I think consciousness to raise the quality of air that we breathe and to raise the consciousness to be able to get there is a very important initiative. So that's you do. We wish you luck in whatever you do. I want to ask you to let you go. If we met 12 to 18 months from now and had this conversation, suppose if you have 10 installations now, where do you think the number of installations would be?
So Anurag, we've presently done across the board. We've done in installations in India. We launched in the French market in August in 19. The Spanish market in November, December of 19. So the kind of goal for us is really expanding in on the verticals within India. Is also now expanding more into the European market. We put our seats down in Germany, in the UK, the Benelux region, and obviously, by that time we want to bring in the North American markets, Canada, the United States, Mexico live as well. We were planning. Some of this has now been pre-advanced with COVID because of requirements or inquiries or sort of that desire to implement air quality, solutions, that's been sort of pre-advanced. So I mean, it's for our perspective as a business, it's obviously it's a good sign. But I mean, then the sort of present circumstances, you would hope that they don't keep continuing. And in general, people are conscious of clean air, clean water, clean energy. The one thing, and maybe I'm saying this because of a bias, today people make sustainability a buzzword. I think in general, sustainability has always been an added factor or a part of anything that continues in the long run. So, you do not have a day to, I'm pretty sure you don't have a webinar that's discussing, say, profits of an industry, because that is another function of measuring sustainability. So, whether it's, how the business sort of corresponds with the environment, corresponds with nature, I think these are all sort of subsets that have been going on from back in the day. It's our sustainability is nothing else but the ability of any concern or any being or any organization to keep continuing its activity over a sustained period of time. So I think, these things need to start fitting it in more for us, just to kind of, accept them and absorb them as just natural parts of everyday functioning of our lives, our businesses, our professions, etc.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. We wish you in your endeavor of providing better quality of air in public spaces, because it will have a direct impact on the quality of work we do, on the quality of our lives, and the quality of time we spend in those environments. And as COVID goes away and we show up in public places more, I hope we are able to enjoy the benefits of the technology that you brought to India. Wish you luck in your endeavor, and here is an important conversation after you. We also have conversation with Varun Agarwal, who is the Breathe Easy Lab, on the same issue of air. He caters more to houses, and I think he has a different technology. I think the more the merrier, the more
Of course.
leaders get sensitized about air. I think there is a space for everyone. And as you know, life is about abundance. So I wish you luck. But I just want to ask you on a very serious note, what is your air solution for breweries? If the people who are drinking in
Sorry, air solution for?
Special solution for the kind of air you provide in nightclubs if people are drinking there? That's not a serious question.
You know, most people think that the air quality of the nightclubs is already pretty good.
Anyway.
Your parameter of happiness or end product is different over there.
Yes. All the best, and
thank you, Anurag. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your good
wishes and
time. And hopefully, you know, by the next time I get a chance to interact with you, there's even more consciousness on the air quality issue.
Thank you, Siddharth. God bless you.
Stay safe, Anurag. Wishing you.